So you came with all these groups. What happened in your groups? Did any miracles happen there? Conversions happen?
Many. One of the most prominent ones was an old chap called James Farrell. He was 76-year-old, and he used to always say to Our Lady, he'd been coming before I did, and he used to say to Our Lady, Mother, just one more time. I wanted to come just one more time. So he came out, and I was on my own this time. My wife never came. It was October, and he said to me, I'd love to climb Apparition Hill. I said, well, why not? He said, I'm too unsteady on my feet. I said, I'll take you up. So took him up to Apparition Hill. It was a slow process, got him to the top. In them days there was no statues, just a cross, a metal cross. So we sat and said our rosary. And I said, look Jimmy, I said, I'll take you down the quick way that leads to the blue cross. I said, only it's very steep. I said, so I'll walk in front of you, and if you fall on top of me. So we started going down, and he fell right into the bushes. And I picked him up and I said, Jimmy, are you okay? And he went, I'm fine. And then I seen the blood dripping, and a thorn had slit right through the top of his finger, and it was bleeding profusely. So I took my handkerchief out, wrapped it around it, and I said, right, when we get to the bottom, I'll take you to the Maltesers and get that stitched. So we came down. He said, but we need to finish the rosary. So we went to the Blue Cross, finished our rosary, and I said, Jimmy, I'll need to change that. It was soaking wet. Took another tissue out my pocket, took the handkerchief off. There wasn't a mark. There wasn't a mark on his finger. Nothing. And believe it or not, such a thing like that, I forgot about. And a couple of, maybe a year, 18 months later, Jimmy and I were out here, just sitting with a group like we did tonight, and somebody said, Jimmy, have you had any experiences? He said, oh yes, and he told them the story of the finger. And I said, Jimmy, I forgot all about that. Now, how could I? I've seen so much happen here, I forgot about such an important thing that happened in my group. You know that the things that happened are just incredible. It's just an incredible place. But we've got a couple in the group that came with us this time that very sceptical. Oh, I'm Lourdes. I'm not keen on this place. I'm a Lourdes person. I said, look, we're all Our Lady's people. I said, and she brings nice people together. They're all high as kites now. They've all had a wonderful week, and every single one of them have loved it. I came out with a group in 1995. I had a chap that was drug dependent. I had a chap that was alcohol dependent. I had a psychiatrist. I had a doctor from Bearsden in Glasgow. And I said, Mother, what are you doing? I said, these people will never mix. And see, at the end of the week, they're just like one big family. And that's the same here. I say to them on the bus, I say, you're getting on this bus now to go to Medjugorje with strangers. I said, we'll come back as a family. And that's happened every 76 trip I've done.
The work of Our Lady, no?
Yeah, absolutely. She brings people together all the time, and there's always somebody in the group that needs help from other people. This is why it's important to come with a group. I've spoken to people that said, oh, I went on my own, but I didn't get nothing. I said, well, you won't get nothing on your own, because things happen and people won't talk about it. But if you're in a group, everybody talks about it. You can talk to people, I mean, it's just an amazing place, and it's just a place that I've been privileged to come all these years, and Our Lady's always. I've been 76 times, and I think I've paid once. Our Lady's brought me every other time. I've been to Walsingham, which is a shrine in England. I've been there 13 times, never paid. I've been to Knock in Ireland. My fare was paid twice. When you work for Our Lady, she looks after you. She looks after you, Tom. There's no doubt about it. She looks after you. And all the little details as well. Like, we were sitting here yesterday. Now, the forecast for this was torrential rain all day yesterday and all day today. I don't know if you looked at the forecast. We sat here and said our rosary. We said, Mother, we're going to try and dry that up so that we can get all our last minute shopping done. Look at the weather we've got. It's supposed to have been pouring down. It's so important, to believe in the power of prayer, because it works. I was here with a canon from Glasgow. He'd been a priest for 50 years, a lovely guy called Canon Alphonsus Woods. and he came as our spiritual director. And on the way home, we're on the aeroplane. He was in the middle, I was sitting to the right, and my pal Joe was sitting to the left, and he kept rubbing his legs. And I said, "What's wrong, Father?" He said, "The pain in my legs is incredible." I said, "Would you like us to say a little prayer with you while we're near head office?" And he said, "By all means." Joe and I prayed with him, and the pain left instantly. Now that was a canon. He should have been praying with us, but his faith was, he went, "Go ahead." We prayed with him. The pain went. You know, power of prayer. The power of prayer. Fantastic.
I love to know. You told me you are originally from the Church of England.
Yes.
How was your conversion? How did that happen to come to Medjugorje from the Church of England? That's a long way.
That is a story. That is another miraculous story.
Yeah.
My son, he's 44 now. He fell ill when he was 18 months old in Scotland. Now, he was sleeping all the time, and we phoned the doctor and we said, we wanted to speak to the doctor, but there was a virus going around, so the doctor was out on call. So we spoke to his wife, and she said, "What is his symptoms?" We said, "He's tired, he's floppy, and he's sleeping all the time." She said, "Right." She said, "There's a virus going around, he should be all right in 24 hours. So foolishly, we took her word for it. We went for a night out in our local golf club, came back, and he was still he still hadn't woke up. And my wife said, "I don't like this." She said, "I'm going to phone the hospital." She phoned the hospital, they sent an ambulance out, took him back in, and we found out he had meningitis with a blood poisoning. That's meningococcal septicemia. You know, and he was in a coma. He wasn't sleeping, he was in a coma. So the doctor came out, the doctor whisked him away, gave him a lumbar puncture, came back, and he said, "Your son is very, very sick." He says, "We have two options." He says, "One, I can treat him." He says, "But I think it's too late." He said, "The other option is," he says, "I can overdose him." He said, "But the other thing is he said, "it might kill him." He said, "So you have to decide." So we looked at each other and said, "Right, if it's too late for ordinary medication, overdose him." So they overdosed him to give him the medicine. 24 hours later, he was wide awake. And the first words he said was, "Mum, Dad, Julie, Janet." That was me, my wife, and my two daughters. Now, he was letting us know that he wasn't brain damaged, because anyone that has septicemia ends up either losing limbs or brain damage. He was fine. So he was in the hospital for 10 days. Margaret stayed with him in the hospital. He had 9 injections a day for 10 days, so he had 90 injections. His arms and legs were all swollen with the injections. He screamed when the nurses come anywhere near him. We had to hold him down till he got the injections. After 10 days, the doctor came and he said, "There's nothing more I can do for him." He said, "Take him home." So he was like a rubber man. He was floppy. We took him home. He recovered in a couple of days. The 2 nurses that nursed him were both Catholics, and they said they'd never seen anything like it in their life. From being in a coma, he was clinically dead, actually clinically dead. And from there to 10 days later, leaving the hospital, I couldn't believe it. So I said to Our Lady, I said, I prayed about, what made my conversion was when the doctor took him for the lumbar puncture, I found myself in the ward myself. My wife went to phone her sisters to say that there wasn't much hope. So I ended up in the ward on my own. So all I can do here is say a prayer. So I said a prayer, and I heard a female voice say 5 words: "Your son will be all right." And I thought, now, what do I do? If I say that to my wife and he doesn't recover, it could ruin our relationship. I said, so I'm stuck with a dilemma. So I said, right, I did hear a voice. It was a female voice, and she did say, "Your son will be all right." So I told Margaret, and that gave her a lift. She believed in it, and it turned out to be true. And I said, in return, I'll become a Catholic, but I didn't. I didn't keep my word. Didn't keep my word. That was 1980, and it was 1980, and it was about 9 months after that I kept my promise. But and the only reason that happened was my wife was staying in the hospital. I was going to church with the two girls, taking them to make sure they got to communion. And the parish priest, who was Irish, he come up to me and he said, "I notice you come to Mass every Sunday," he said, "but you don't come to communion." I said, "I'm not of your faith, Father." I said, "I'm Church of England." He said, "Well, what do you want to do something about it?" I said, "Yes." So he said, "Right, come on Monday night," he said, "and I'll talk to you about it." So on the Monday night I went to the church and he gave me like a test, you know, asking me about the Catholic faith. Well, I'd been going to church for quite a few years with my wife, and he said to me, 6 weeks and I'll have you a Catholic. And he did it in 6 weeks. And that was my conversion, because Our Lady spoke to me. And she spoke to me ever since. And I tell people, we went on the road like the disciples. We went on the road for 4 years. We covered from Scotland right down to near London, talking about Medjugorje. And we changed our programme to Our Lady speaks to those who listen. And the amount of people that came to us after the talk and said, "I know exactly what you're saying. I've heard them voices before." She said, "But I was too frightened to get up in front of everybody and talk to you about it." But the amount of people that came to us and spoke to us, and we do it on a daily basis. I say, if you want something from Our Lady, a lot of Catholics make the wrong impression to think Our Lady can read your mind. Our Lady was human like you and I. She's raised to divine status now with her son, but she can't read your mind. And I know from experience, because I was going through a difficult time in the faith. I thought I was taking off more than I could really handle. And Our Lady says, "Tell me what troubles you and I'll help you through it." I said, "I've got 3 problems, Mother." I said, I had my sister-in-law staying with me with her young baby. I said, "I don't want any of my 2 girls to get pregnant." I said, because I couldn't cope with the stress of another baby. I said, "I'm frightened of heights," which really worried me. I said, "and I can't speak in public." And she cured me of all of it.